Okay, good afternoon and welcome to the Meridian Districting Committee meeting for Friday, April 29th. We are starting at 1:32. Chris, could you please take roll?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. Commissioner Jagosh?
Present.
Commissioner Nesmith?
Present.
Commissioner Corey?
Here.
Commissioner Steed?
Here.
Commissioner Larson?
Here.
Commissioner Greer?
Present. Okay, so based on the agenda we have today, we have 3 action items. The first one is to review and discuss the potential district maps and methodology. Do we have somebody going to get up and talk about that? I think everybody has a copy of the maps.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I apologize. I did want to also point out Mr. McClure, Mr. Triple, and Mr. Green are here as the ex officio members.
Good. So we did receive updated precinct information. That's what you see in your maps that were sent out. I'm not going to run through this whole thing again, but there is a part that was updated based on those new precincts. The last time we informed you of several census blocks that were split by the precinct boundaries, and there were only 2 last time, but there's quite a few more this time. It just felt like you'd want to know as you're diving into this. If anybody would like a more detailed map of this that you can review later, we can definitely provide that. But I just thought it'd be good to view in the meeting here for just a second before we move on, unless there's any questions about this. Does everybody remember how we handle these splits as far as the population goes? We assign a point to each of these precincts, census blocks, and it's roughly in the center of it. And wherever that point lands, that's what precinct gets all of that population for that block. So,
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Nesmith.
I did have a question. I know this is based off the 2020 census. However, clearly we've grown since then. And so I'm assuming everybody gets to vote that is a citizen. Is there any consideration? I know you have to base this off the 2020, but is there any strategy employed for knowing and understanding where the city is growing, so you don't end up with 40,000 people in one section, in 5 years, which is probably fairly possible?
yeah, that's a good.
Then other sections don't end up still at 18 or 19 or 20,000. I mean, is that even a consideration that we don't need to worry about, or is it something that you guys have thought about? Because clearly it's not the same as what's even represented here, actual population. Is that?
That's true. Trent, do you mind speaking to that? Oh, sorry.
Madam Chair and committee members, I think that's an excellent question, so I'd answer that twofold. With regard to actually how the lines of the districts are drawn, you are confined to the 2020 census results. So in terms of actually drawing the lines and then doing the computation for variances and district totals, we are required to use the 2020 results. But to your point, I think it's fine if the committee wants to try to look, after doing that, if you want to look beyond that and try to take that in consideration in some way, shape, or form, I think that's fine. Just remember, at the end of the day, we do have to rely, in terms of doing raw math, we have to rely on the 2020 numbers.
Got it. Thank you.
Just to add, we can certainly provide some information if you're wanting to look at that for context. It's northwest and southeast areas of the city that are growing primarily, but you'd probably find, and it might be good to, if you can, consider those and having some extra in those sort of buffer, but you're likely going to find that it would be impossible to meet the new populations given the restraints and the size of the blocks. So.
Okay.
I would echo Kurt's comments. At the end of the day, it has to conform to the 2020 census. in terms of the variance and the requirements and what a judicial review would look at. I don't think it prohibits you within the variances to look at to see if there is areas of growth that you want to consider. So if you ended up with a district with on the lower end of the variance scale that you anticipated growing more than one that was on the higher end, I think that would be acceptable as long as you're adhering to the 2020 census.
Madam Chair. Doug, yes, I would like to go ahead and have a list of the census blocks that are split.
Okay. I'll get that. Okay. Is everybody okay if I move on to showing the options? And I think, isn't that the potential district maps and the methodology? Okay. So I'm going to pull this up, have it right down. We'll put it over here. Okay, thanks to Brian for preparing these for us. So we're currently viewing option 1, which focuses on the downtown area and then divides the city up around that downtown area. And I'm not exactly sure how you want this to go. Would you like me to just run through the 3, or do you want to take some time to discuss each one before we move on to the next?
Madam Chair, a question for Doug, if I may. Your map on the screen, the area up above Chinden has the number 1458 in it. Printed out map that I've got has that as 1412. Huh. Are those the same things?
Madam Chair, my map
Yeah.
has both. I thought it was precinct number and then population.
Yeah, the printed maps.
This one has presumably precinct numbers and then followed by population. The map on my screen I'm looking at doesn't have the population, but it's got
You're right.
1458 for a number, which I'm guessing is maybe also a precinct number?
Population. So yes, sorry, the printed maps have the precinct number on top with the population in
So
parentheses.
the numbers on the screen are populations?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. It was, if we show both of them on the screen, it's going to be hard to tell what we're looking at. It's just
I'm
muddy.
good.
Okay. And while we're dividing it up, it's most helpful to have those population values so we can see. Any other discussion, comments on option 1 before I switch? Okay. Now showing option 2, which has a very low variance but has no particular design focus, and it's not showing up. Hold on one sec. There we go. Oh, we've got a small glitch. Give me just a moment here. It likes to forget our labeling preferences when we switch. Okay, so now we're viewing option 2.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Is there kind of a generality that we can use as a rule of thumb that there's more room for development the further we get from the center of town? So that, if we're looking at these maps and we're looking for trying to, if we want to take that into account, is that kind of a good rule of thumb?
I'm not sure. Do you have any comment on that?
Not quite sure I tracked the question.
Can we assume that there's going to, if we're reserving room for growth, would it be better for it to be reserved, say, south of Victory, maybe west of 10 Mile, rather than worrying about reserving space down here in the core? Or is there really any rule of thumb for where growth may occur?
Infill is a priority of the city. However, infill is difficult. So while the city likes to see infill, including downtown, all the vacant parcels you see around northwest corner of Fairview and Eagle, generally most of the population growth is going to be on the outside edges. We could probably show you a map if you wanted. Recent permitting data, last 2 years since the census was done, most of it's happened in the northwest corner, so west of 10 Mile, north of Ustick, in the southeast area of the city, all over, but especially down Amity, Eagle, Locust Grove area, and then out in the 10 Mile area, 10 Mile and Franklin, there's been a lot of housing out in those areas.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, a question for Doug. On the current map on the screen, are the darker yellow areas, whatever that is, down in that area, are the darker ones the non-city parcels? What are those darker spots?
Oh, just the spots. So this is a color scheme that works for colorblind and regular. So it's just a pattern instead of just a solid color.
Oh, okay.
They could pick up the pattern and tell that they mean nothing as far as geographic features.
Okay, thank you.
I'm colorblind. Brian made this for me. Well, I don't mean to rush anybody. Do I keep going?
Go ahead and put, if I may, go ahead and put 3 up there if you would.
Okay. Oh, I think I booger it when I click too quickly. Sorry. Okay, there's 3. Let's see what. No, not that. Attempted to focus on north-south corridors and geographic areas.
Madam Chair, if I may, in having all 3 of them put up, I heard what our deputy city attorney said last time we were here. I think I heard the same thing from the mayor when he called me about being on this. And I feel like this needs to be done in some fashion about neighborhoods. I'm presuming, Chris, that each of us is from a different area of the city on purpose?
Kirk can probably speak to this more, but the mayor did select based on geographical location, and the ordinance, I believe, states so many have to be within this boundary, that boundary.
Okay, so with that being said, I live up in the northwest part of Meridian. I'm up there where the growth is occurring, and every day I get in my car, I find another roadblock, another bulldozer, another who knows what. I leave early for meetings because I don't know how long it's going to take to get here. With that being said, I don't think that 3, in my opinion, fits the neighborhood concept, because I only go down in southwest Meridian when I go to my dentist over on South Meridian Road. I go through there as just a route to drive through. I don't know anything about that neighborhood. So I concentrated on 1 and 2. And I took 1 and I played with, and here's where I give IT all the kudos in the world for doing this. On option 1, I put Precinct 2111 into District 1. In an attempt to balance it, I took 2001 in the upper right of District 1 and moved it over to District 2. And I thought I was just being really cute until I realized I'd blown the percentages totally out of the water. It went from like 8% variance in the one IT did to, I don't remember now, maybe 30% variance on the one little change that I made. So I gave up. I still like that premise in my mind of districts, trying to work districts, the areas that we live in, that we're familiar with, that we know the best. But I'm not sure how we're going to shuffle this to try to accomplish that with any detail. The slightest move just really messes up the stay under 10% requirement.
Can I speak? I'm bad with the etiquette, forgive me. Can I speak to this, your comment there? I agree with you, and thanks for recognizing the difficulty it was. Brian actually came up with these in planning, and he did do very well. And I will say that this tool here that I'm running, Brian also got ready for us, and it's a scenario tool. So I can take a copy of each of these, and we can basically paint the city a different district, paint different parts a different district, making it way easier for you to do that. So all I'm saying is don't let that shy you away from trying out to fiddle with some things.
And to add to that, we do have a potential ranking of the district maps because we have 3 before us as maybe a starting point. So we had discussed possibly determining which one of those was the best one to start with.
Yeah. Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Smith.
Walter, I'm with you. I didn't think option number 3 just clearly doesn't work because it's north and south of the freeway. It doesn't fit. I was looking at option 2, and I have a little, I'm not totally colorblind, but I was having to write, I was challenged by the colors and getting it, but I think it makes more sense as a neighborhood situation, even though I think like precinct, or it's precincts, right? Precinct 5, they have it north and south of the freeway. I think somehow you need to figure out a way to get that not be the case, like precinct, the 2120 could go to 5 instead of 3, and then you'd have to give up one like 2114 to precinct or district number 3, and try to figure out how to manipulate that. I would try to take your core, like area 3, and make it have more population on the higher end of your 10%, because if we're trying to consider about growth, even if you're not focusing on that, it might be easier because it's not going to grow as much. 1 and 2 is probably just a balancing act. I mean, I see that as a pretty viable situation. Number 6 kind of extends also across the freeway, so that I would like to see it be neighborhood like you were mentioning. So in other words, it doesn't cross the interstate, if at all possible. And because that's long, clearly neighborhoods, didn't do that. Locust Grove didn't always have a an overpass, and when it did, those are clearly very much different in the age of the neighborhoods and the development growth. So I don't know, that's my thoughts. I don't know if you, on your tools, you can be super cool if you could paint it, like turn it into Council District 6, and then it recalculate it for us so we can know really if it really makes the math not work, because it's hard to give you input and be a math guy all at the same time.
Madam Chair, these are all good points and something you'll have to contend with, but just so you know, you won't be able to not cross the freeway. There's not enough population in South Meridian to have just 2 districts. You'll have to cross somewhere.
I see, okay. So you just got to figure out how to incorporate that.
And the only reason I'm waiting is I think that there was a kind of a desire to rank these guys first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, just to add my comments to other commissioners, I also think the neighborhood considerations are important. For context, I live at Locust Grove and Fairview, and I walk to work today, so my experience in town is a little different maybe than some other folks. And just thinking about that, on option 1, although it has the highest variance, seems most neighborhood-like to me, because that Precinct 4 or District 4 is kind of the more dense area. And right here, within just a couple of blocks, Union 93, Old Town Lofts, and the new proposal where the park is like 500 more apartments or something like that. So it's just, this area is becoming very dense, and those folks will have different concerns than the southwest area of Meridian, which is on the comprehensive plan shown as continued to be low density. So that'll be a very different set of concerns those folks would have. So lumping them together with the more urban core folks could be a problem, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. Is there any way, like on option number 1, you could take Precinct 2004 and slide it into District number 2? You know, kind of balance out that inner, like what she shared, because it does have, because the thing I concern, your center, your Meridian is definitely a different building type, and in your Old Town Meridian over in District 3, even though it extends a little bit north, you know, Pine and there's a little bit of newness over there, but District 4, that's a really good core that you've done in option number 1, because that is a totally different type of housing, neighborhoods, and it does cross the freeway, but it does kind of make sense that that stuff all kind of then just goes directly south. So I guess my question is, can you balance 2, 3, 4 and make it a little higher in population, and make 1, 5, and 6 a little lower? I think it's a consensus that we think we should at least try to plan a little bit for growth. I mean, granted, maybe you redistrict it in 5 years, or what was the timeline? Was it 10 years?
Well, it'll wait till the next census comes out, so.
Oh, okay. 10? Okay. Or maybe just don't worry about it, so.
Well, I'm happy to move stuff. I'm really just waiting, just following the agenda there. Would you like to rank them first, or do you want me to just dive into fiddling with them, or?
Maybe we should rank them just so we have maybe a selected map to work off of.
Great.
So you don't have to do it 3 times.
Yeah. Perfect.
I'm fine with either way, so.
Everybody okay with that? It kind of sounds to me like 3 is probably off the board, right? Does that sound correct?
I can't see 3 being acceptable, at least from where I sit. I am impressed with that Precinct 2201's got all of 7 people in it. That was one of the more amazing things I got out of all this.
So, Madam Chair, what I've brought up on your screens is the ranking system Jaime Del Barrio, who's here in the room, helped create, so you can see this. So what I'll do is call you one by one, and if you can tell me sort of your first choice map, your second choice map, and your third ranked map, please rank all 3. I will do this as you go, and you can make sure I put the button in the right, or put the dot in the right radio spot on your screen. And then once I have all 6 votes, it'll take 30 seconds, and I'll populate to show you what that would look like as far as preference in a ranked voting.
Okay.
So Chris,
And I'll get that to show. My apology.
I was
Different.
going to say, it's not showing down here.
Correct. 2 places I have to do that. So let me go to place 2. Okay, so I think, there we go. Should show on every screen. So I'll just start at this end and start with Mr. Nesmith.
I would vote map 1 as my first option, map 2, and then map 3, just like that.
Ms. Larson?
Map 1 as first, map 2 as second, and map 3 as third.
Madam Chair?
Map 1 is first, map 2 is second, and map 3 is third.
Mr. Corey?
Map 1 is first, map 2 is second, map 3 is third, though my difference between 1 and 2 is so slim as to not really be noticeable.
Ms. Jagosh?
Map 1 is first, map 2 is second, map 3 is third.
Mr. Steed?
Just to make it easy on everybody picking up their ice cream, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so probably.
And I probably am a little stronger on 1 than I am over 2 to comment to Corey's comment that that's when we start splitting hairs. But yeah, 1, 2, 3.
So this probably will not look surprising once this populates. So this map, you can see we have 2 points for a first ranking, 1 point for a second ranking, 0 for a third. So this, I'll leave this up until directed to remove it.
So my suggestion, Madam Chair, would be, I mean, the committee can proceed however you like, but there was unanimity with respect to, although maybe a close distinction between 1 and 2. So a way to proceed potentially could be to focus on map 1, and then if committee members want to start moving some blocks around to see how the numbers might change, the GIS folks, Doug in particular, but Brian as well, can accommodate that. So if you want to use number 1 as your starting point, and you can start moving blocks around to do what-if scenarios and see what comes out of it.
Madam Chair, if I may. Doug, let's do what I did at home on your spreadsheets and show them the impact of just moving 2 precincts, one of which John wanted to move a moment ago. I moved 2111 into District 1, into red. And 2004 out of District 1 into District 2. And it just blew up the percentages. Just simple swap.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't an exact swap because I didn't move it between 2. I crisscrossed. But it just really played hob with the numbers.
Okay, sorry, I was setting that new, so this is a new draft I just set up for this. Can you tell me again, you wanted to move which 2?
2111, which is the 2712 population to your left of your cursor, that one.
Right here.
And move it into 1. And then in the upper center, 2004, which is population 3,009, moving it over into green.
Okay, so automatically updates here so you can see the variance.
And it's like, wow.
I'm not the math guy, so I'll obviously defer to those that are. But just realize with between option 2 and option 1, because option 2 is bumping up against, option 1 is bumping up against the 10%. Any variation in there is going to get you very close, or if not over the 10% variance. Whereas you would have more play in the option 2 since it's already starting with a lower variance.
But that little change, if I may, made such a big difference. It threw us up to almost 30% variance. I hear what you're saying, I agree, but I'm not sure that's going to save us.
It will give you more options to move things around.
The other thought I'd put out there is what really blew the number up so dramatically is we moved, one of the precincts into district whatever it was, and then we moved another, instead of just swapping it from District A to District B and vice versa, we moved it from District 1 to 2, and then we moved another one from District 1 or whatever it was to District 3. So if you want to avoid major blowups in the variation, I would recommend you move the blocks between 2 districts, and that you still may go above 10%, but it won't be as dramatic as what you just saw there.
In and out of the same 2 districts.
Correct.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
the other thing I would note, the other chart there that's, I think, helpful in this conversation, just for tracking numbers, is the one above the variance. The variance, of course, is what your key is here, but if you track the overall total populations for each one, you want them to be as close to that red line as possible. So if you're going to move 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, then maybe consider how 2 or 3 of those precincts add up, and then maybe compensate for another one. But track the individual populations for each council district.
And just to, if any of you feel like it, if you're feeling like you just really want to fiddle around, we're set up so that somebody could come up to this podium here and run the mouse and actually click away if anybody is really feeling brave.
Scary.
Madam Chair, I'm not that brave. But Doug, what about a simple one, looking at option 1, the original precinct 2101, just moving that into the smallest district population-wise, which is 5.
Okay. Am I in the right spot?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Looks like we're still high in District 2.
Oh,
but-
wow. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Does that, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, does that reflect the changes that Walter proposed as well still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Still has those. Would you like me to switch it back?
Yeah, I was thinking of just that
Okay.
single change.
Yep. Oh,
Madam Chair, another thing just to consider here is really what's driving the variance is the difference between the max and the min. So you still, even though you modified one, you still have the number 5 there with a pretty significant difference from the number 1.
so I think what's
Right, thank you, Brian. I was, because taking 1 out of number 1 and putting it in number 5, 1 is the second largest on the option 1, and 5 is the smallest. I thought that might help.
Yeah. Well, this is how it ends up. It did get below 10 to, I put everything back to option 1 except for this change.
So I can't really speak to like neighborhood character there, though.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I've been playing with the data and come up with 5 options that have lower deviations than version 2. And I had been wanting to hear the council's, the commission's, committee's objectives on what they kind of wanted to do I do have, I think, one option on version 1 and one option on version 2 that go to a smaller deviation. I guess, so now, I don't want to supplant the conversation. I'd rather have people talk about their goals for how the map would look before I kind of go somewhere, but I'm more than willing to go ahead and drive up there or go ahead and work with IT and go ahead and show those options.
I think that's up to you all. I'm fine with you doing whatever.
I'm sure you're going to have to introduce me to the hardware.
You know, if you feel more comfortable me doing it real quick, that's just fine too. But if you want to run it, you go for it. So I'll wait till you're set up there.
Steve, do you want him to go back to the original District 1 before you start?
I'll create him a new draft just for how many, do you want to start with one and then we'll create them as we go, or?
And Steve, make sure you talk, sorry, you got to talk into the mic too. So
Oh, yeah.
I guess I'll turn it on. Sorry about that.
Well, this is what we're here for.
Okay.
You want me to just create you a blank one? We'll start from there? Okay. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Go with that. Oh, yes. Okay.
Okay. These first couple of ones.
Okay,
And,
so I'm gonna get things set up for you if I could real quick. So I'm gonna start.
I'm just going to mention something. These first two go ahead and put a couple of districts north of McMillan, one to the northwest, one to the northeast. But that was the thought on this first two options.
Okay, so if you click on whichever district you want to draw over here, and then you can click on the paintbrush after you select one of those, and just click and drag, and it'll include them in that district.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, you got to be a little patient with it, I guess. It's hefty. can actually click and drag if you want, and just do a swath. We'll clean up that. Okay, so hold on just a second. I don't think it is showing this active over here, Brian, but I don't think, are the numbers?
No, I've got a couple of precincts that are off. Just a second.
Okay.
So is that telling me that it says there's a variance of 29%?
It could be a difference in the calculation. I've got, oh, whoops, I'm sorry.
Just a second. I see one error.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Saw that too.
So am I looking at a variance of 4.89?
That looks right.
And my expectation was I was going to see one of 5.27, so it's better than what I thought. I'm going to check and see if I've got an error in here. I don't see it, so I guess I can go ahead and say this is one option that goes ahead and creates two districts on the north side of, I guess, Eustic, actually, and then one for the center core.
Madam Chair, would you like to entertain or ask for committee feedback, or would you like to just press on, or what's your thoughts?
Oops.
Is that-
Does anyone have any comments for Steve's option one?
Yeah, Steve, what was the thought process behind your mapping it this way, so we can understand your goals?
I think in an underlying one, it does kind of come around a center core district with 5 districts on the outer ring of this. And in this configuration, like I said, starting out with kind of dividing, and I guess I should say maybe dividing on the Linder Road. So it starts out with Linder at the 12 o'clock and starts working around the outer ring from Linder.
Yes.
Steve, I'm impressed. I shuffled two precincts and gave up, so anyway. I'm not sure I'm a fan of the Southwest District crossing the interstate like it does, but that aside, is there a way to take some of District 1 that's above McMillan and switch it for some of District 2 that's below McMillan? In other words, not have it overlap as much like a reverse-looking Oklahoma is?
You know, I'm looking at the next three options that I've got, and they're pretty much like this. In fact, in their cases, then the deviations go from one's at 5.27, the other one's at 4.65. I think the other one after that is probably over 5, but I think there's only one other one that I would go ahead and say we should consider. So if you want to go ahead and just go to a second blank for me, I'll go ahead and click on that. And
Oh, if I could drive for a second there. So should we base it off this one you just did? Or just blank?
blank.
Okay.
And this one's a rather similar theme, but maybe, you know,
Okay, let me get you set up.
yeah, I'm afraid in this case, again, it goes, well, anyway, this is the one that goes to 382, so I want to go ahead and show that, but
Oh, sorry, 1 second. If you'll, I'll just take care of it. Just click this paintbrush right before you.
perfect.
There you go.
Thank you. there's a 382. And that one kind of turns it around, well, kind of moves it around and such. But yeah, I do want to echo what was mentioned before. And in fact, if you want to capture that one,
Just save it.
what I'd like to do is just to go ahead and show the effect of taking all the ones that are south of the interstate. Well, so let's see, we go.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have a proposal as well that I think might get to what you're trying to get to. I could have Doug draw it very quickly, and it might provide some discussion points if that would be helpful.
I think it would, but actually, since we've captured this one, can you give me another blank screen real quick?
Yeah, if you could not move the mouse for just a second there. Okay. Okay. It's all yours.
Ready?
Good. There's one lingering down there. Did you see that? There you go.
So then, that gets you down to a district that's a pretty good one to work with, 102.4% over variance. So if you're looking for a district that's south of the interstate, that's kind of a good one to start with.
Perfect segue.
I kind of, though, like the idea of having the south portion split instead of being in one district, just so that they're represented on both sides.
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, sorry, I would echo that as well. I think, with all the growth in the southeast area versus the southwest area, I think the characters of those two sides will be different and get more different as time goes by.
Not that I don't appreciate all of your work. It's a lot.
May I suggest, Madam Chair, that we complete this map as he's seen it, just to give an additional view that might be helpful for discussion? Doug could complete it real quick. It's the exact same thing that we were going down.
Oh, okay. Because all I noticed was this district, I didn't complete a map versus, so I'm turning it over to you guys.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Steve, I think I'm amazed, number one. Number two, I think it's laudable that you appear to be chasing the lowest variance possible. But I took the stay under 10% as a rule, and then I applied, in my mind, the neighborhood rule. And if we bump up against 9% or down to 3%, that's just what happens if you can keep the neighborhoods working together. It could very well be that one of your scenarios is the one we can best take to tweak to try to take our knowledge of each of our neighborhoods and put it a little bit more together. I'm at a loss outside of the northwest area up there. I mean, I drive the rest of it, I know it fairly well, but I don't know the neighborhood parts of it. I don't know who shops where, I don't know who goes to doctors and dentists where and that kind of thing. But I don't see low variance as a governing issue except for staying under the 10. But again, kudos on what you've put into it.
And Madam Chair, if I can elaborate on that. So I work in uncharted waters. This is a brand-new statute, and it's not been interpreted by a court yet. We've had other litigation, of course, both in Idaho and throughout the United States on general issues of redistricting. But so we have kind of at least two competing things going on. So one is, we talked about this at our first meeting, but I just want to read you the language from Idaho's law. This is the law that requires cities above 100,000 inhabitants to district. So that's the law that I'm just going to read this phrase. It says, each district shall, to the nearest extent possible, contain the same number of people. So that is that lowest variance concept. You know, you're going to try as hard as you can to get the same number of people. That is all the guidance we get out of state law. That's all it says. And so the term of art there is to the nearest extent possible, which is subject to interpretation. So that's my first thought. I'm going to put a pin in that just for a second. And then the second thought is we have this body of case law, court decisions that have, both in Idaho and elsewhere, that have made this distinction from an equal protection clause perspective, that if your variance is below 10%, there's a legal presumption that the variance is there for a good reason. It was for valid reasons. And there's a legal, and then the converse of that is if the variance is 10% or greater, courts have essentially said there is a rebuttable presumption that that was done for bad reasons. And basically the government entity has to prove why it was necessary to go above 10% and why that was not discriminatory. So those are kind of the parameters we're dealing with there. So I'm going to end the way I started. This is all kind of gray and new, and we don't have a court interpretation about this particular language, but there are competing things going on here. Personally, I think that phrase that says each district shall to the nearest extent possible contain the same number of people, I think to the nearest extent possible does provide the committee and ultimately the community some flexibility, because you may say, yeah, we can get this down to 0.0001, but it's some crazy looking octopus that doesn't make any sense, and I'd be happy to defend that in court. That says that doesn't make sense, even though it's the lowest variance. So I think you have a little bit of latitude, but clearly variance is one, that is a key point that you should focus upon.
Okay. Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think does the version that's up, doesn't that kind of go along with the core theory that you were doing, Steve? And that makes I think that's a nice representation, at least as far as what my goals are, but I don't know if anybody else has at least, because I think the geographics, transportation is a huge issue. What you're dealing with, Walter, in Northwest Meridian needs to be represented for traffic, all kinds of things. And I think that's why, at least in my theory, why these are, city over 100,000 you need districts, because you get spread out far enough that you're not getting the representation that you need. So I think that's my biggest goal, is that people in different, the South need different representation than somebody in the core by Pine Street. It's different needs. So I don't know. I think that's a decent stab at it right there.
If I may, following up on that, those of you that live south of the interstate, does the one on the screen work for you with that large an area all in one district?
I don't live south of the freeway. However, I know Columbia and Eagle is a lot different scenario than 10 Mile and Overland.
True.
So that's where I have an issue with not at least dividing the south portion of the freeway. I think that underserves the southern residents.
Right. Like, you're talking more like option one, splitting the south, kind of an east and west zone, which it is different. That's true. And keeping your core. Yeah.
Because I do like what we have on the screen, minus the fact that the southern portion is not split.
Let me know if you want to bring up one of the other options that have been drafted too.
Sure.
Could you bring up option one,
Yes.
please?
Draft one like that Steve did, or the option one?
Option one.
Okay.
It's
Oh,
right.
yes, I want to save. Did that? Yeah, that's.
So Steve, since you spent so much time on these, do you have some insight on how we could potentially type-A these around to make that work into the variance we're seeking?
First of all, I want to go ahead and say that the conversation about going ahead and splitting south of the interstate into two districts is really useful. At least that kind of gets us to a narrowing of options. So that being said,
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Doug, a question. Looking at your bar graph in the top right, it looks like one is the heavier and two is the lighter. What if you took something out of the top right corner of District 1 and moved it over into 2? Would that reduce the variance or just throw the whole thing crazy? Like that 2407 maybe going up, now left?
Oh, sorry.
You want to reduce District 1 and increase District 2. So if you move over to your left and take either that one or the one over left now, left to the 2407 population, below, that one, took one of those out and made it green, what would that do to the variance? Would it go crazy?
I don't know. I can give that a shot here. I'm going to move, this was moved from option one. The only thing that's changed here is this, I think, used to be in District 1. Is that right? Yeah. I'm going to put that back first. Maybe. Oh, I did that same thing again. So either we want either this
Something out of blue and move it into green. Yeah, see, it just goes crazy.
these are very densely populated spots right here. That's
Madam Chair, Doug, I mean, that's the real challenge because the Southwest is so low density that it's really hard to get the balance.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Madam Chair, to address your question, I think when you start trying to adjust the deviations on option one, where you're kind of headed is what I had in my first map. So if we could maybe toggle between option one that you had and then Steve's number one. And what it does is it ends up taking a lot of West Meridian in to that other Southwest district.
Am I showing the right one? Your first option, Steve?
Correct.
I thought, just Madam Chair, I thought that your first option there was actually pretty good. So
Madam Chair.
left and right split and still kept with our core, you know, the center of town, which is definitely, you have different needs.
So
So many options. It's definitely, I can appreciate your guys' challenge, for sure.
my only concern with this layout, because it does split it, but north of the freeway and south both have fairly heavy construction occurring right now, where subdivisions are being constructed. So I feel like the population is probably going to be a lot higher.
Oh, I see, like 6 already having quite a bit of, yeah, I see where you're going with that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think it's going to be tough to get your
It is
geographic zones and then balanced population. We might be here for a few weeks, so. That's tough.
Chris said we had till August. No.
Yeah, can we just borrow the software for the?
Wish.
Okay.
There, I don't know. I can't speak to that. We can't let you take it home.
That would be handy.
So one thing we could do is potentially get copies maybe of these additional options so that we have something to review over potentially the next week, because we do have a list of possible upcoming meetings if you guys would like to discuss those dates and potentially the public hearing schedule. Does that sound okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I can. So you're asking to prepare basically the 3 new options there, and create the set of maps of the original 3 and the new 3, so you guys can all review them. Actually, we'll throw the old number 3 out, right?
You can.
Right.
yeah,
The original
option
number
3
3.
out.
Yeah, the original.
Okay,
Yep.
we can do that.
Yes, please.
If I may, could you label those as option 1, option 2, and then Steve 1, 2, 3, so we know which is which?
Yep.
That'd be okay?
Put your name on it, Steve.
Give credit where credit's due.
Understanding that Steve 3 was actually from you technical experts, and I don't take that credit.
I'll label them appropriately.
Okay, so during our agenda meeting, we did have a discussion about continuing meetings on Fridays, which would mean that the next 3 meetings would be May 6th, 13th, and 20th. Do any of these?
Madam Chair,
Is that
yeah,
correct? Yes,
that
sorry,
is
Chris.
what was discussed, and as you reached a decision about what you want to present in the public hearing, you wouldn't have to necessarily meet all of those if you came to a consensus on the 6th or the 13th.
So I guess in essence, that would give us 3 meetings, not including this one. Do Fridays work for everyone?
Madam Chair, that works for me.
Does it not work for anyone?
6.
At what time?
6
At
doesn't
1?
work, but
The 6th?
1:30?
It's not?
I didn't know how far out. I guess I can try to move. You know how it goes. You know, can move. But so we want to reserve the 6th, 13th, and the 20th. What time are you guys thinking about?
Probably the same
Same-
time at
same
1:30.
time? Okay.
And Madam Chair, then that was leading to potential public hearings on June 3rd and 10th, or June 3rd and 17th, depending on if you wanted to have one public hearing and then meet as a body to review and make any tweaks that perhaps you heard from the public, and enable you to completely wrap the committee's duties on the 17th or 24th, so we could have this to me by June 28th, which was the initial goal.
I have a conflict on the afternoon of the 20th.
Okay.
The others are okay.
Is there a different time on the 20th that would work for you?
I have a 1 o'clock ACHD meeting on the 20th. The morning's open, and late afternoon, the 20th works as well. Thursday's wide open, the 19th.
Other times on the 20th work for me.
Is everyone available throughout the day on the 20th?
Madam Chair, I'm checking the availability of the room as well.
That's a good point.
The 20th is open all day.
So would you prefer to meet later in the day or earlier?
I'm sorry?
I'm just asking if everyone would like to meet earlier or later in the day, because you said later in the afternoon.
Yeah, morning's open for me, or late afternoon's open.
How about the rest of our staff? What's your availability that day?
May 17th is the primary, so it's hard for me to even think straight before then. After that, I'm probably wide open.
Get your excuse from that conversation. I can't imagine.
I think Friday afternoons can be goofy, so maybe the morning
Yeah.
would be better to aim for.
Late morning,
Yeah, morning would be better for me.
10 o'clock? It's 10 a.m.? So 10 a.m. on the 20th?
I'm good.
At 1:30 on the 6th and 13th? And this is, of course, if we need the additional meetings, so if we have it all figured out by the next one, we don't have to worry about it. And how did you feel about the June, right now, we're discussing the June 3rd public hearing and a June 10th, or do you want to do a June 3rd, have a meeting, and then another hearing on the 17th?
Madam Chair, you're not locked into Fridays either. We just sort of kept that because we knew we had general availability. If the committee wanted to meet or even do public hearings another day or evening, morning, that can be done as well. I would just have to check the room calendar.
Is there any discussion? Would you prefer a meeting between the two hearings?
I'm out of town May 31 through June 3.
So you're not available on the 3rd?
I'm not in town.
Okay. Okay, so June 10th and 17th? I'm out of town the 24th. If we were wanting to set a meeting after the 10th, could we have it earlier in the week of the 17th?
Madam Chair, looking at the calendar, Wednesday, June 15th is available. And then Monday, the 13th is also available.
Okay,
Hopefully I answered your question. I've lost track of days.
thank you.
Madam Chair, is there consideration for like one hearing in the daytime and one in the evening for the benefit of the public so more people could attend?
That is a really good point. So do you want to do the June 10th public hearing in the morning and the 17th in the evening?
Madam Chair, I don't know if you want to do the 17th in the evening as a Friday. Certainly can if you want to do that, but.
Or do the 16th?
16th works for me, the 15th in the evening does not. I have another meeting.
So we could do the morning of the 10th and the evening of the 16th?
Madam Chair, the evening of the 16th is not available to Planning and Zoning Commission hearing. The 15th and the 13th were the days that week that work, and I'll have to defer to Mr. Starman. Is there any requirement about number of days between hearings? I didn't think so, but I didn't look.
There is not, so you have, I think, just out of, in terms of being responsive to the community, some distance between the two would make sense just intuitively, but there's no legal requirement. You can do them back to back if you chose to.
And then after the public hearings, we are having another meeting to collaborate that information. I guess that was my next question.
Madam Chair, I think just so you can act on the information for the public hearing, you also could do it at the end of that public hearing. Just so you have to at one point make the final recommendation to the city clerk to go before council.
Madam Chair, Chris, is the room used every Wednesday? Would Wednesday the 8th work?
Wednesday, the 8th, it is in use by Parks Commission. Thursday, the 9th, it is open. And then Wednesday, I know the first will not work for Mr. Steed, but it's available that Wednesday. The 2nd and 6th, generally most Thursdays are not. The 2nd and 4th Tuesdays have some availability. It just depends on the day you want. And sorry, I know it's 30 different days we're talking about, so I'll try to keep up. If you throw any dates out, I can tell you what's available.
So Thursday the 9th in the evening and the 17th during the day?
Madam Chair, those are both available room-wise.
I suggested Thursday the 9th in the evening and Friday the 17th during the day.
Yeah, I'm booked during the day. I'm not available, but on the 17th.
I'm sorry to make you repeat, Chris. Thursday the 16th during the day?
Thursday, the 16th during the day is not available. City Council are in their budget workshops and here all day.
Thank you.
But Monday, the 13th was available?
Wednesday is too.
Yeah, Monday the 13th and Wednesday the 15th, they're both open during the day.
I could do either of those days, daytime.
I can do the morning of the 13th.
Madam Chair, does anyone, I guess I can ask if anyone has a problem with June 15th. It's a Wednesday in the afternoon, 1:30 to 2:30. Any?
Nope.
I'm good.
Sounds
The
like.
week is a little more difficult for me, but I can make it.
I apologize if you'd said that before. So many dates, I didn't want to put you on this, didn't mean to put you on the spot if I did.
That's okay. So we're thinking the 9th for the evening, correct?
Perhaps 6 p.m.?
And the 15th for the day at 1:30?
I'm sorry, which one? The
The 15th?
16th?
15th,
15th.
Wednesday.
Chris, you'll send invites and,
I will. I missed what was said about the 15th, the time?
1:30.
1:30, okay. I will send meeting invitations. We'll also publicly notice this, post it on Nextdoor, and do all the social media that our mayor's office will do to communicate that it's a hearing.
and you'll send invites for the other stuff too?
Absolutely. I'll send an invite for all of the dates and times selected here.
Okay, thank you.
And Madam Chair, I'll read those out to the committee when you'd like, so I can make sure I have them correct too.
You can go ahead.
Please just interrupt me if I say something that's incorrect. May 6th, 1:30 p.m. May 13th, if needed, 1:30 p.m. May 20th, 10 a.m. Public hearings June 9th, 6 p.m. Public hearing June 15th, 1:30 p.m. And then the committee can remain June 15th at the close of the public hearing, however long that goes, and come to a consensus for what they want to recommend or set a special meeting after that date to confirm.
I like that idea. Is everyone all right with that?
That was almost as hard as the maps.
That's what I was thinking. Okay, does anyone have anything else for discussion for today? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, our meeting is adjourned. We will see you on May 6th.